Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Berezin from MSDW, and I'd like to welcome you all to the MSDW Biz Apps Marketing Minute podcast. I'm thrilled to have you all with us today. This is the place where we chat with marketing leaders in the Microsoft space to dive deep into critical strategies that drive success for both ISVs and partners. I'm especially excited about this week's episode because we're going to discuss how partners can capture and maintain Microsoft's attention to help drive their business growth. And I cannot think of a better person to discuss this with than my guest today, who is Kelly Mazur, the Director of Marketing at Evenica. Kelly, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. I love this topic, so happy to share some information today.
Awesome. And Kelly, you lead the marketing strategy, the Microsoft partnership, and the brand alignment for the company. So you've got a lot of hats, of marketing hats. And we're going to get into that in a second. But before we kind of dive into our topic, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you, also about Evenica and the problems that you solve in this space and how you specifically got into the Microsoft ecosystem, because I don't even think I know that.
Yeah, I've been working in marketing for about 15 years, and a little over 4 years ago, I was looking for a slight career change, wanted to stay in marketing, but needed a new challenge. And I found Evenica, and it was just the perfect fit right off the bat. And it was my first toe dip into the Microsoft channel. And I just fell in love with this channel and this industry. And I just love how fast paced it is and how much we all learn together and grow together. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I took on very early in my marketing role with Evenica was understanding that partnership between Evenica, who is a Microsoft partner, mm-hmm. and Microsoft, and how we can kind of leverage that relationship with Microsoft to drive new business for us.
Yeah, excellent. And Evenica is in the commerce space. So why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of what Evenica does a little differently than some other partners, and where your specialties lie.
Yeah, so Evenica is one of the leading implementers of Microsoft's D365 Commerce. And then we have our own portfolio of IP that extends and amplifies those capabilities of commerce. So we're both an SI and an ISV, which right off the bat is, a little less common to see a partner that does both. And commerce is such a niche space that there's not a lot of partners that focus solely on commerce as well. Yeah, I think having that niche has put us in a very interesting position in that when it comes to sales and marketing, majority of our leads are coming from Microsoft sellers and from other partners, because all of the work we do is P2P. We are always working with another partner who might be specializing in finance and operations or supply chain. And so we have those relationships where we come in as the commerce experts just to do, that slice of the pie, we like to say. So we really rely on those partner relationships and the relationships that we have with Microsoft. So that is high priority for me in my role, is to make sure that we maintain those relationships and make sure that they benefit both directions. But what's amazing for me as a marketer is I don't have to use content marketing to generate leads. My leads are coming from referrals.
Yeah, which is super rare, and it's a very nice thing to have. I'm sure a lot of partners would love to be in that situation.
For sure, but it comes with the other side of it is having to keep up with Microsoft, understand that and build that alignment, which is exactly what we're going to be digging into today. And that can be a whole different beast for a marketer.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. And to kind of get to where Evenica is now, what are some of the steps that you think partners should take to sort of build that strong relationship with Microsoft?
Yeah, it does start with the relationship building. So identifying key people at Microsoft that you need to build relationships with, and make sure they're authentic relationships, make sure that you're helping each other so that you can continue growing that, setting up, regular cadence calls, staying in touch regularly. There's a few key areas I would look at when building a relationship with Microsoft. One would be looking at your local office. So we have our allies and friends that are at the Toronto office that we see regularly. Then we also have the connections we've made within the commerce team. Then you've got your partner development manager and the people that surround them. And then whether you're an SI or an ISV, there could be different programs or verticals that you would have relationships with as well.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I noticed you said you are an ISV too. Um, how do you navigate the Microsoft relationship from both ends? I find that super interesting. There's sort of the partner aspect of it, and then there's sort of the relationship with Microsoft around your own IP that you've developed. Is there a balancing act that you have to do between that? Can you kind of explain a little bit about that?
There was about a year and a half ago. It's gotten a lot easier now, but for a while there, I even had two PDMs. I had one for ISV
wow.
and I had one for SI.
Interesting.
Yeah, which was great.
Yeah, that is cool.
I had double the resources.
Yeah.
But now it's a lot more fluid now, and I feel like both an SI and an ISV, they bring different benefits to Microsoft, and there's also different benefits and value that come out of that. So I feel like by dabbling in both, it's been quite successful for us as well.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And from a marketing perspective, I know you mentioned earlier a kind of a trick is sort of, or not a trick, but one thing that you have to constantly do is keep up with Microsoft and the changes that they make. How do you do that from a marketing perspective?
Yeah, I think a lot of how I keep up is the relationships I have with the product marketing managers in commerce and supply chain. She's a great resource. Making sure that I'm following her on LinkedIn, not just connected with her so I don't miss her posts. And a lot of these teams within Microsoft have monthly newsletters that you can get onto. There are monthly blog posts that are roundup posts about what's new in Biz Apps, or what's new for ISV success, or what's new with your product or vertical that you work with within Microsoft. So making sure that you're subscribed to all of that is a great way to stay on top of that, as well as attending all of the Microsoft events. So I stay on top of any of the virtual events that are beneficial to me. And if I can't make that, I try to get someone, junior from my team to attend and give me the cliff notes. And then any in-person events that I can attend as well, just to make sure that I'm staying fully on top of all of those Microsoft launches and releases. But I will also say it's impossible for anyone to keep up with every release and announcement that they make. I'm sure that's a big part of your job too, Adam. But
I mean, we're a news organization, and it's difficult for us to do. So.
Yeah. So I think you really need to be clear on where you play as a partner. What is your vertical? Where within the Microsoft ecosystem do you sit? And try to cut out the rest of the noise and just go deep rather than wide on one area.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm interested in Copilot. I got to keep up with it, but it's not always going to, it's Biz Apps and Commerce that will always kind of be at the top there, as well as, modern. We don't play in modern work at all. So I just will have to cut those events out. Those are not ones I would attend.
Yeah. That makes sense. And also kind of expanding a little bit on the marketing part of it. How does it work from like a co-branding perspective with Microsoft? Like, because you're a partner and an ISV, is it easier for you to be able to run, I guess you can call them co-branded marketing campaigns with Microsoft? How does Microsoft support you from a marketing stance?
I don't think the fact that we are an ISV and or an SI, I don't think that has had any impact on co-branded marketing efforts that we've done with Microsoft. I think any partner with the right strategy can do what we've done. When I think back to a few of the moments I'm most proud of things that campaigns we've run alongside Microsoft. One of them was a series of webinars that we did that was hosted by Microsoft, and we provided the content and we presented on these webinars. And that was really to assist a team of sellers that were trying to break into a new industry and brought us on to help them do so because we had experience there and we had presented this idea to them. So what we were doing in that case is we were getting great exposure. And the fact that we were co-branded with Microsoft was a wonderful stamp of approval as well. But we were also helping this sales team by providing them with content and resources to sell to a new industry. So if you present it that way, that worked well for us. We've also done case studies with Microsoft. And we've done a number of co-branded press releases as well. And those all came from Partner Center. Get familiar with Partner Center. But in the benefits section, we had a long list of marketing benefits that were in there. And I don't think enough partners go in there and take advantage of them. And there was things in there like co-branded case studies and We've had 3 partner success stories written about us as well. Then the press releases as well. And that was all listed as partner benefits in there.
Mm-hmm. That's super interesting. And how do you, in sort of that process starts by working with your PDM to get in there?
Yeah, I mean, the PDM will certainly help, but not everyone has a PDM. But if you have these benefits in Partner Center and you go to activate them, you're essentially letting the system know, hey, I'm interested in utilizing this benefit that's available to me. You'll get an email back from an engagement manager, and then you'll have a new point of contact in this engagement manager who will help you facilitate. So in the example of a press release, you go back and forth, they send you the final draft. There's a few rounds of approvals there, and you have this engagement manager that walks you through the process. So it wasn't my PDM that did it, but it was a new face.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, navigating the landscape of Microsoft is super tricky. I think for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even us, it can be a little daunting.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone should be intimidated by it, especially if you're just getting started or it's something new that you're taking on. Because anyone who's been doing it for a few years, how relevant is that experience if Partner Center changes every year? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It's something new. It's never too late to jump in and take it on. Just try to understand, the process of how these things work. But with a little bit of effort, I think anyone can take it on.
Yeah. Very cool. And I know from sort of an evolution perspective, Microsoft is constantly evolving their offerings or changing the names every 2 minutes for their products as well, which is a little difficult. Yeah. So how do you kind of stay informed about all these changes? I know you mentioned webinars and other things, but if you can just kind of get in a little bit more detail for the audience and the other partners as well, and how do you adapt to those changes too?
Yeah, those are 2 great questions. How I stay on top of it, I think LinkedIn is a huge part of that. So I do start my workday with about 15 minutes of scrolling with my coffee at my desk on LinkedIn and making sure I'm specifically checking out the pages and posts of some of my closest Microsoft allies, the sources that I know have relevant information to my industry, to commerce. I start there every morning. I think the events as well. And I think if you just were to go onto Bing and search for Microsoft events, there is a Microsoft event landing page, and you can search either by category, by which vertical you're looking at, or you can search by location if you're looking for in-person events. So those are great as well. I will say that when there's changes to names and terminology, that does seem to be announced at events.
Yeah.
So I think that's the best way to stay on top of it. As far as how we keep up with it and how we do that alignment, we are a smaller partner, so that I have a lot of agility that I'm very grateful for. So we really like to take a look at some of those keywords that Microsoft is using, and then I'm very quick to see how I can adopt that into our marketing and into our messaging and the language that we're using in our customers in any of the content that we're putting out.
Yeah.
So anywhere where I can find alignment in messaging, I think that has worked well for us.
Are there any specific programs from Microsoft that you've used that you've really found to be super worthwhile from an ROI perspective? And before you answer that, I love the comment that you made earlier about how Microsoft sales teams will sometimes review the content that you put out because you're, as the partner, it's interesting to hear how you are educating Microsoft. And I think that's super cool. And I personally don't see enough partners doing that.
Yeah, I think that as a partner, we're boots on the ground during these implementations. We are face-to-face with these customers during that sales pipeline and that process as well. So I think that there is, a lot that Microsoft can learn from partners, and I think that they see that. And I think when you treat that as a relationship that offers value both ways, instead of just sitting there as a partner and expecting Microsoft to help you, when that relationship goes both ways, I think it's incredibly beneficial as a partner. So I think that that's huge. There are different programs. There's niche programs that pop up among field teams, among product teams. So it can be specific to, what vertical you're playing in.
Yeah.
For us, the ISV success program was one that worked well for us. Different training as well. We went through the Catalyst training program. Our entire department was certified in Catalyst a few years ago.
Yeah.
That was huge for us. So taking advantage of that free training as well. But definitely I would reach out to your PDM if you have one, and attend events, because I do feel like anytime they're launching a new program, obviously they want partners to be part of that. So at these online events is often where they're announcing these programs that partners can take advantage of. And I would, if you have the bandwidth, sign up for any of them that are relevant to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great insight.
Yeah.
Great insight. And also, I want to touch upon something that you said earlier as well, which is, you are a relatively small marketing team. So, and I think when people think of partners working directly with Microsoft, they think of, huge teams where, 20 people are involved in that relationship. What advice do you have for smaller teams to really try to, I guess, make the best of, their Microsoft relationship, but also try to, continuously strengthen it like Evenica does?
Yeah, we're a very small team. There's been many times where it's just been me, or it's been me in an intern. I'm also very fortunate that my role actually sits within the business development team. So I'm very closely linked to our sales team. So I think in a smaller company, I think that is a wonderful way to go about marketing, is to have that close alignment with business development, because I have always been in on the same meetings that business development manager with a Microsoft seller. I've always been sitting in on those meetings too, and I've had that exposure. And that's one way that I have built those relationships as a marketer, not just as the partner. So I think if you look at other departments within your organization and see where they have connections with Microsoft, and see how you can leverage that, because even just sitting in on some of the more technical commerce calls that we have with Microsoft has given me great exposure into what's on the roadmap, what their priorities are for the product, and that has largely shaped my content calendar as well.
Interesting. And I imagine, well, I mean, this is kind of probably a conversation for another time, but being exposed to the business development team on such a consistent basis, that really helps with sort of the sales and marketing alignment, which is so important, not just for the Microsoft relationship, but for really everything else that both marketing and sales does. So, they're hearing that unified message. Everybody is sort of on the same page and aligned.
I start every single day with a 30-minute meeting with sales and marketing all together. Yeah.
So that's for the people that are watching this, that is phenomenal advice.
Yeah.
So instead of operating in sort of a sales silo and a marketing silo, they're coming together. That I really think that's so important.
It's incredible. I'm so grateful that the organization is set up that way. And I've said this a million times. I just love that structure that we have there. But as a marketer, I cannot tell you how easy it makes my job, because I hear about every deal that's in our pipeline and the common issues that they're having, that the customer is having, that they're looking to solve, what questions are coming up about commerce. And I start to spot these trends that come up and these keywords that come up, and that can dictate my content calendar as well. So between the relationship with Microsoft and the customer exposure I have through sales, I think that has not only helped me as a marketer, but it has helped me create content that is in alignment with Microsoft, and that Microsoft's field teams and sellers look at and take notice of as well, which has helped with our relationship.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. We've talked about a lot of the benefits. What are some of the mistakes that you've seen other partners make when trying to work with Microsoft?
I think the biggest mistake I've seen is partners that think that it is a one-way relationship, thinking that Microsoft they do have wonderful benefits in these programs that you can sign up for. But I feel like if you're just signing up for these programs, taking the benefits, trying to grow your business, and not building the relationship in the other direction as well, I think you're doing it wrong if you're approaching it that way. Yeah. One of the first things I do when I get on a call with a new Microsoft connection is say, how can I help you as well? what are your KPIs? How can we win together?
Mm-hmm. So it's much more collaborative,
Yeah.
as opposed to just sort of what can you do for me? And I think that makes a lot of sense. When I've had conversations with partners about sort of how they prefer to work with ISVs and how and all that stuff as well, they say the same thing too. It
Yeah.
needs to be collaborative.
Yeah, and the same with partners in our P2P relationships too. We always look for objectives that are mutually beneficial.
Yeah. No, so that's great to hear. So before we wrap up, what's new for Evenica on the horizon? What are you up to in the next several months? What's new and exciting at Evenica, or what do you think is going to happen?
Gosh, so much. We have some great products, some great IP that's in the works right now. We have E for Payment, which is our payment connector. You're going to be seeing a lot of content coming out about that lately. We've got a lot of conferences coming up that we are both speaking at or attending, that we're looking forward to connecting with new and old partners. And I think from a commerce perspective, we're seeing this huge trend. It's not new to us, but we're seeing customers starting to really ask about composable commerce and headless commerce. So I think that you'll be hearing a lot about that from us as well as we try to educate our customers and answer the questions they have.
You did a good podcast on that on our site. I think it was last month.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So that was good. Well, Kelly Mazur, Marketing Director for Evenica, thank you so much. It's always awesome to chat with you. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Adam.
Thank you.